Hello, and welcome back to The Mothers, where we get to know the inner worlds of industry leaders and change makers who are also somehow raising the next generation. I'm Sarah Brown, recently resurfacing from the back to school rush, which often seems to coincide with a sort of New Year conquer the world expectation at work. So, for anyone that's felt pulled in two opposing directions even more than usual, me too, and I'm famously not flexible. But I know we'll get back in our groove. I believe in us. Before we get too far, a quick reminder to please subscribe and give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening. Apple Podcast doesn't even require you to listen to review, so tell all your friends to review. This really helps us keep growing. And on the growth point, we are pursuing additional sponsors. So if you have a brand in mind that our audience should know about and potentially get a discount on, shoot us a note at hello@themothersmedia.co. Okay, so back to finding that groove. We saved this interview for the back to school season because it felt like a good way to help us feel a little grounded and purposefully motivated. Today, we have an executive coach, which frankly is a resource I've always been curious about. In this case, we have a coach who climbed the ladders of the most competitive and traditionally achievement-oriented industries and eventually said, not for me, and pivoted. She did the thing. We have Arivee Vargas, mother of 3, a successful big law attorney and big corporate exec turned executive coach, leadership development strategist, and author. Her book, Your Time to Rise, is available now wherever books are sold. And books are actually what brought Arivee and me together. Over the summer, I had stopped into our local bookstore, shout out to Newtonville Books, and overheard Arivee giving a talk about her book, which is very much about her professional experience. And as part of it, she referred to her daughter, who was in the crowd. I was in the kids section hunting for the latest Dog Man and was like, is this a sign? Because let's be honest, whenever you've taken the path less traveled, you're always looking for something to prove you're on the right track. And any sign that says you're not is to be ignored. I have many times turned to a Magic 8 Ball to reinforce my life decisions or tell me I'm going to get what I dream of. And of course, never read it with both eyes open until the answer is what I wanted it to be or needed it to be. And if you haven't done this, you're lying. But anyway, I subsequently stalked Arivee on LinkedIn, and now here she is. And what I really appreciated about our interview was that if one of the myths we're trying to bust with this podcast is that, quote, ambition diminishes once you have kids, Arivee is one of the most ambitious people I've met, wanting to achieve all the things. And she is openly wrestling with that word and what that means, what success means, and how to feel good and fulfilled and strong and confident without the trophies of corporate America. Hearing her grapple with this out loud and feel proud of where she's landed was really comforting to me, and I hope it will be for you too. So please enjoy this motivational conversation with Arivee Vargas. Arivee, thank you so much for being here. This is such a funny, this is the most sort of kismet happenstance guest that we've ever had. I wandered into Newtonville Books to buy something for my kids, of course. And then you were giving a talk about your latest book.
Yes.
And I overheard like half of it. And I was like, this is very in line with what we're interested in exploring. And then I heard, then your daughter, one of your kids was there. You were referring to this. And I was like, this is all happening at once, which is very much what this whole premise, this podcast is about. And so I stalked you on LinkedIn and was like, would you ever consider coming on this podcast?
I love that. It's so good to meet you.
You too. Yeah, so happy to meet you. Thanks for taking the time.
I know. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to hear more about your story and highlight the great work that you're doing and your book. There's so much goodness. And then probably employ you to fix me.
No one needs to be fixed. No one needs to be fixed. That's the problem. I think this. I was listening to just because I love podcasts too, and I have favorites like The Good Life Project by Jonathan Fields. I love Diary of a CEO by this 31-year-old CEO who. I love his podcast because he is so curious.
Yeah.
I love how he comes from I don't know perspective.
Totally.
Because it really opens up for the listener. Like you're asking yourself these questions and he asked them. And he had Esther Perel on the podcast. And Oprah had her on the podcast too.
Amazing.
And it was just I love Esther Perel's like very nuanced approach to things. And she says, Stephen, the host of the Diary of CEO podcast, was talking about, you know, the self-love, self-care movement. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I think we've taken it too far. She's like, you there, that's important. And, you know, you don't do that in isolation from people. You do that process and experience in relation to other people. Mm-hmm. And I love that she's just more nuanced. And I think it's important for us to like maintain nuanced conversations, right?
Yes.
So when people are like, oh, like I need to improve all these things, and I'm like, let's work on like one thing that you just want to like amplify, like you know, because it's easy for us to be like, I have to fix something, right? We can say that, but I think that's part of like this mindset that it has to be like a certain way, and it's part of conditioning. Like it's so much more complicated, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Which is a good flag. All of my therapists of various sorts, including my husband, are like, you exist in a very binary world. Like it's either it's either crushing it or it's a failure. And obviously there's like value in the in between. But that's I don't know what it comes. There's we could have a separate podcast about my psychology, but
no, but we're breaking it down. But Sarah, no, but you're getting better.
Thank you. This is what Sarah, like, no, like the idea of like crushing it or failure, like I call that like the all or nothing mindset. And that is like number one for like high achievers. It's like, if I'm not 1,000% in everything, it sucks.
Yes.
You don't realize that, Sarah, I guarantee your 40% is someone else's 1,000,000%.
Yes.
So you don't see that because you only see your standard, you know?
Yes. We actually, a shout out to one of our prior guests, this woman, Lexi Reese, who was a big deal at Google, a VP, and then left. This was earlier days. Left, was COO at Gusto, and then now had a run at a political office, and then now is CEO and founder of a new company called Lanai. Anyway, her point was when she came back from her first-ish maternity leave, you know, she was like, my biggest mistake was coming back as if I didn't have kids, and then reaching this place of kind of burnout. And her boss at the time said, Lexi, your 75% is everyone else's 125%.
Yeah.
So do just 75%. Yeah. And so, I do think these achievers, overachievers, perfectionists, like the metrics need to be adjusted or something to kind of hack the system.
These other people, not me.
Yeah, but you see how like her manager told her that, right?
Yeah. Right.
Most people's managers don't, because they kind of want you to continue to like,
that's true.
push yourself. But when you have a manager who's like, by the way, like I'm going to be honest, having a manager that says you are actually above your peers is so important to say. And HR doesn't like that because you shouldn't be telling. But the reality is that the person should know that, so they know I don't have to burn myself out. Like it's okay. I can actually do this, and I'm pretty good at it. And it gives you just more of a runway and flexibility within yourself. And I think that we don't talk about that enough either, of like having these like human to human conversations of like, listen, your 60% is actually fucking phenomenal. And so like, keep doing that. Like that's it, right?
Totally. Yes. Okay, wait, before we get too far, let's go back to the story of Arivee. We love starting this with, you might be overly familiar with this question in a job interview setting where they're like, tell me your story and your journey. But I do find it is interesting how you describe your story and the through lines that pop for you as to how we reach Arivee of today. Would love to start there. And then we can continue on and probe.
I always start, or I tend to start, not always, but tend to start with how I was raised. So I'm first generation Latina. So I was born here, but my parents are from the Dominican Republic. And the reason why I always start there is because it's such a part of my identity and part of how I see the world. So I grew up very much bicultural. Like I'm very American, but I'm very Dominican in many ways. And having to feel like I needed to choose one or the other growing up was really difficult. I think kids today, it's a little different. It's more diverse in many ways. You have a lot of kids from parents who are from different ethnic backgrounds. So it's a little different, but back then, if you were not white, you were other, and that was very difficult for someone like me. But you learn how to navigate different worlds, and you learn how to adapt very quickly, and you challenge yourself a lot in terms of who you want to be and who you are culturally, who you're supposed to be. There are tons of like should, supposed to's when you're in that kind of in-between space. And I eventually, as I got older, learned that, being American and Dominican is the lane. Like I don't have to choose one or the other, right? And so I always start there because I think our upbringing has a massive influence on who we are as people. Yeah. And when you grow up in a very traditional Dominican household, there are a lot of rules. It feels constraining. It's very like authoritarian kind of situation where it's very, it's a lot of discipline and traditional. So like you do what you're told. And that's part of the culture, but also part of my parents, when they had kids so young, there was so much stress. And when you were living in that home, you feel that stress, but you also, like looking back, as a parent, I totally understand why when your dad comes home and doesn't say hi to you, it's because he's so stressed. It's not has nothing to do with you, but you don't know that as a child, right?
Yeah.
So I start there because my parents' work ethic, the sacrifices they made, culturally, all of that has really impacted the work I do and who I am.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I went to law school, became a lawyer, did that for a number of years, then decided, I don't want to practice law anymore. And then went into HR because I really wanted to merge my coaching world outside of work with what I was doing at work. And so I really wanted to be in leadership development. But I had a pit stop in employee relations in HR.
Okay.
Now, employee relations is, if people know, it's really about employee complaints. That's really what it is. You investigate them, give recommendations, decide what happens to the people who are, in the wrong, if there's evidence to substantiate those claims. And that work was critical for me to be prepared to do leadership development work because I saw issues from every angle: manager, senior leader, employee, peer, direct report, like the whole 360-degree perspective. At the same time, I'm an empath. And that work was extremely, extremely emotionally difficult for me. And I only realized that when I would talk to colleagues, I was like a team of one, colleagues at other companies who were doing this work. And there was like a wall there. Like they weren't so deeply impacted by this emotionally, to me, draining work. Important work, critical work. And very critical, but also very emotionally, to me, exhausting. So I burnt out in that role, full on burnt out, medical leave. Now, the truth is that there were so many things happening at that time in my life. I just had my third baby. Like there were a lot of things that were happening.
Yeah.
And just the culmination of, I didn't do the check-ins. I didn't do my pauses. I didn't do the things that I used to do. I missed it. And then I missed it one too many times. And that was a wrap.
Wow.
And so burnout, depression, anxiety, the whole, the triple whammy hit me. And I was out for 3 to 6 months.
Wow.
Came back into this leadership development role, loved it. I loved that work. And I loved it so much that I said, I'm already coaching. I'm doing this podcast. I'm making an impact in this way. I'm now making an impact in the organization, but I want to have a bigger impact outside of it. I need to be bigger and think bigger. And I needed to move on to start my own, or I would say go full time with what I was doing on the side.
Yeah.
And really now I do a lot more leadership development work in my coaching, and my speaking as well. But it really was a culmination of almost 20 years of just experience, seeing things, coaching people outside of the company and in the company, and seeing how we show up and why we show up that way, and why we want to show up a little differently, and how we can actually do that.
Yeah. Wow. And so kids came in. So your third, this is amazing. So you had the first two alongside work at, I don't know, I think I noticed you were at Vertex. I don't know what was the sequence of kids alongside these professional choices? Yeah.
So my second law firm, I had my first child.
An eye-opening experience, probably.
Yes. Also because, when I was a younger associate at a law firm, so this is a long time ago, I remember wanting to be a partner at a law firm. I remember women partners who either, and this is what I saw, so I'm not speaking for everybody, I don't know everybody's situation. Women partners, either their husband stayed home with the kids, or they had 2 full-time nannies.
Yeah.
And their husband tended to not have the same kind of job that was so demanding. Right. So what I saw was you both can't really be if you're married, like, or have a partner or whoever, you can't really be on parallel tracks when you have kids. I saw that it was very, very hard. And I saw women partners always working, like always working.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking of kids at that time. I was not even close to that. So I remember noting it, like noticing it. And I remember a woman partner saying, I mean, I don't even do my grocery shopping. Like, I don't open boxes. When I go home, all I do is spend time with my kids. Someone else is doing everything else. And I was like, oh. And to me, as someone who grew up in a traditional home where like my mother cooked, my dad, and they both worked. And I was like, oh, you don't like do your own grocery shopping? I went with my dad grocery shopping every Friday, you know? So again, jarring to my system, but I'm like, oh, this might be what it's like if you want to do this kind of job. You have to sacrifice those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when I had my first kid was my second law firm.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just curious. In that, you said you noted not necessarily process, but I am curious as an ambitious person who's in some ways willing to do anything. Oh, that's sort of ingrained in how we might operate. Were you like, oh, noting that's what's required and I'm game to do that, or more just note it? Okay.
I knew. We don't know. I love that question, Sarah. When I noted it, I go, that's not what I would want to do.
Yeah. That's cool that you have that balance.
Yeah. I knew like I was working so much as a first, second year, third year associate. I was like, I think something would need to shift for me to be a mom.
Yeah.
I knew that something would need to change. I didn't know what it was. But I knew like, if I'm going to have a child, I can't just do what I did before. Like I knew that much.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by how many people were just like, nope, I do what I did before. I just have kids and that's what I do. And I'm like, okay. And maybe that's worked out for them. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that would work for me.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Sorry. So continue then. Yeah.
No, so I had my first child at my second firm. And ironically, around the time that I came back from maternity leave, I would say like maybe like a year later after I had my son, I had this conversation with my two partner mentors and they said, hey, we have to talk about partnership. Okay, great. You'd be up next year. So we want to know, are you in? Like, we will support you. We'll do everything we can. Now, keep in mind that a few of my colleagues had been told, no, like that's not happening for you. And so I knew if I wanted to go for it, and I did all the work and there's a whole process to that, prove myself, I thought I had a pretty good shot of making it. But as soon as they said that, like, hey, you're up for partner, I remember feeling like dread.
Yeah.
And instantly feeling like I don't want that anymore. Although that's why I went to that firm. I went to that firm because they were training trial lawyers. And I loved that. Like, if you're a litigator, you're a trial lawyer, you're in court. And I loved that. But when I had my son, I had this whole identity crisis when I was on leave, really thinking about who am I without being a lawyer? Who am I without my title? Who am I without my achievements? Who am I without the validation I get from working really hard and being appreciated for it at work? Frankly.
Yeah.
And so I came back as a renewed person in many ways with a different perspective. So that the partnership I'd wanted before was true to that person who I was before, but not anymore. So I left the firm because I decided I don't want to stay, which to many people at the firm to this day were disappointed in that decision, but I still have many friends there. And so it's fine, but it was hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you would have been like one of the only Latina partners in Boston.
Yeah.
That was difficult for me also because I understand the responsibility that I have, but I also have like a greater responsibility to myself.
Yes.
And I thought, me being true to myself is going to make more of an impact than just for a title staying here to say that we can. Like, I didn't think that that was aligned with who I was. Yeah. So I moved on. I went to Vertex. And I moved on, went to Vertex and got pregnant with my middle daughter, Maya. I got pregnant with her the first 6 months that I was there. And And by the way, got promoted almost 3 years in a row, maybe a little bit longer in between. But while I was with her and when she was a baby, got promoted very quickly, which I'm so grateful for that. I worked very hard, but very grateful also for that. And then had my third child. I had a miscarriage at 18 weeks with my third.
I'm sorry.
Lost that baby.
Yeah.
And then had Thali, which is my third, during COVID.
You and I are on a similar timeline. Yes, actually, very similar situations. Sorry, keep going. Yeah.
Yes.
So fun time to have a kid.
So I had her, and when you have envy, like when you go from 0 to 1, I still found that to be the hardest transition.
Really?
Because you're so used to you doing your thing and your lifestyle is set. And then you introduce this human being that you have to take care of. So there's no more like impromptu 7 p.m. drink, right?
Sure.
Your kid has to be, when they're an infant, they're in bed at like 6. Right?
Yeah. Right.
So your whole lifestyle changes and your priorities shift. I mean, when I say your priorities shift, you now have someone else that you have to take care of that's completely dependent on you.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's a partner, yes, there are needs there, but a child is very different. And so I always found 0 to 1 was the hardest. But let me tell you, 1 to 2 was also hard, and 2 to 3 is some part of you gives up. You're just like, it's like you're so obsessive over tummy time for the first one when they're an infant. My third one, I don't even remember doing tummy time.
I know. She was raised on an iPad.
She's over there. And she ended up having to actually have like physical therapy because she had I think it's like weak muscle mass. And she had a speech delay. And I was like, oh, it's because I just didn't do all the things. And the social worker said to me, no, like sometimes this just happens. Don't blame yourself. I'm like, no, but I know I haven't spent enough time with her because I'm with the other 2 kids who are older, who can reason with you, have conversations with you. So when you see this little baby, you're like, you're fine. You're going to be fine. And she's fine now. But just even as a mom of kids, you don't know who your kids are going to be and the needs they're going to have. So my 10-year-old has dyslexia and ADHD. Like you don't prepare for that. And you literally have to every so often reassess. You have to give them what they need. Your vision for your child can shift. And that too is like the challenge of motherhood, I find. While, by the way, you're working and doing all the other things.
There
are these real challenges. And to me, my kids are, in addition to my well-being, my kids are my priority. So having to navigate in the mental and emotional gymnastics you have to go through from shifting environments, like mother to kid mode. And then, by the way, if you have more than one, different kids require different energies and different approaches, right?
Yeah.
So you're doing all of that work. And for many of us, not all of us, but for many of us, our parents weren't able to role model like intentional parenting. And when you're trying to do that with your kids, it's even harder, I find, because you're doing something you've never seen or experienced. And so you're like, I hope this is working. You're reading all the books, Dr. Becky Good Inside. You're doing all the things. And then at some point you're like, just get your shoes on.
Yes, of course. Of course. Yes. It sounded like there was within you was bubbling a sense of this ladder to success or classic externally validated success, career, become the partner, that what the trade-offs required in doing that were already kind of crumbling a little bit, even before kids became a thing. I am curious about how having kids sort of accelerated or shifted, because it sounds like you were going through a sense of maybe identity evolution around professional goals. Then you add kids onto that, which also does those things. Yes. How did those coalesce to getting you to a place where, and we've talked to a lot of guests who do this, myself included, where on the one hand, it might be a time where you're like, just hold on to stability. But also it actually emerges often into a place where you're like, I need to leave that system and build for myself. I'm curious if you can speak to that process for you, which I'm sure was not linear, but how you got there.
Not linear, but definitely, like you said, like an evolution. This is why I I always encourage people to practice some patience with themselves, because there's lived experience and there's insights you get from like your lived experience every time you go through something. For me, one of the main motivators, my son was the one who allowed me to see myself differently in the context of my profession, right? And what that meant to me and how much I relied on it for validation and self-worth, right? Which was, to me, that's not good. When you learn something externally, that means that thing has control and you don't. And so I had to really shift that. And then my daughter, when I had Maya, I'm telling you, when they put her on my chest, something happened to me. I mean, I was crying, which I'm not like a big crier when I have kids, but I was like, I was like, wow, this is a girl that's going to be in the world. I have to show her that like anything is possible. And so when I started having this voice or this little tap or nudge that was saying like, you're playing small, Arivee, you're playing small. Like when I was at Vertex.
Yeah.
And small, like you could be in this place. You could probably advance if you want, that's what you want. You can do all these things, but I know that's not what you want. That nudge was like, I know that's not what you want. I know that you want to play big and take your stuff to a higher level. You want to impact more people's lives. And Maya's watching you. Your kids are watching you. You're going to tell them that anything is possible. You're going to tell them to live a life true to who they are. But are you doing that right now? Are you really doing that? You've been doing the grind for years. Come on, like now's the time. So I had that nudge for a very long time. And then I'm not even kidding, I would say a year or so before I left my job, I'd been at Vertex for about 8 years. About a year before I left, that voice was getting loud, like very loud. And so I said to myself, I think it was December before I left in March 2024. In December of 2023, I said, okay, I'm going to give myself a year. I'm going to do one more year and then I'm going to be out. Because my book was going to come out in January 2025. I knew that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself a year. And then something happened in that month where I had some vacation time and I was away from work. And my body was like, you need to do this now. Like you need to go out on your own now. And part of it was you talk about living a life true to you. You're now not living in alignment with who you are. Like now we have a problem.
Yeah.
It's almost like now it's misalignment, Arivee, and you know what that means. Like, I'm like, yes. And I think of it as like a calling from God being like, you're meant, I put you on this earth to do different work and you're not honoring that. I need you to honor it. And so when I went back into work, even in January, after vacation and in the holidays, I remember walking into the office and feeling like something is not okay. Something is not right. And my body literally was like, you shouldn't be here. And I had that feeling for like 3 weeks. And I said, okay, I'm listening. I got the message. I'm listening. And I gave my notice about like a month or so before I left to give them time to replace me, because it was a small leadership team that we had. And I cried like to everyone I told, because I loved my colleagues. I thought the job that I had was like one of the dream jobs that I had been wanting, and I got it and we were doing some great work, but I felt like it was my time. And part of it was showing my kids, that like, we can do this, and that this is what it means to live a life true to you, is that it can be scary and you literally do it anyway, that it's uncertain. It can feel unstable, but if this is what you want to do, you should just try. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. You go get a job. It's not a big deal. You have I'm fortunate to have the resources and access to do that if I wanted, but also to show them, my husband's also an entrepreneur, to show them we don't have to do it the way that we're taught to do everything. It's okay to have a nonlinear path, and it's almost, how do you teach them how to summon courage? How do you teach them that there's no such thing as no fear? It's just going with the fear and doing it despite that, and having your purpose and what you want overpower the fear. It's like, it's not, the fear is not there. I love let me tell you, I love the fearless mantras. Like, I love them. I don't think in reality, in practice, that is true.
Yeah. Oh, totally. No. Courage is about doing it, being afraid and doing it anyway. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so how it's funny. This is we should get drinks because you and I have the exact same story.
Yeah, we live in the same town.
Yeah, exactly. I like everything you said replace Vertex with Google, I would say, and it's very, very much the same. And I wanted to ask though, like one of the guiding lights as to why one of my whys was, and this goes back to this rooted in achiever, perfectionist, oldest child girl me, was I really wanted to learn for myself, but also model the idea of like, quote, failure.
Yes.
And being okay anyway. And part of trying to go start something that is definitely diverges from otherwise a treaded path to some form of like classic success means that failure is probably more likely and might be more visible and potentially more painful. But I wanted to show my kids to try to kind of break that generational, whatever it is, of anti-failure. But I'm curious if does that resonate with you about trying to learn essentially how to fail better?
Yes. But Sarah, what you said, I want to really put a finer point on what you said about visibility. It is because so much of how a lot of us are raised was what will other people think?
Yeah.
And you're trained, again, you're taught to care about what other people think of you and what you're doing. Is it okay? Is it like in line? Am I staying in my lane? And when you talk about failure, I actually don't think the issue is that only I know that I didn't do a good job or that I missed the mark there. It is being seen as failing. It is what other people see. It's being visible in that way.
Yes.
Because then you get into the, all of our tribal psychology of rejection and judgment. We don't like that.
Yeah.
Because as we were raised, we were taught that no, you do what you're told, so you're not rejected.
Yeah.
Even in school, we're taught to be compliant.
Yeah.
Right? When I think about my son and I think about how he learns and how he doesn't learn the way other kids learn, and society doesn't reward the way that he learns, right? You could be a genius, but if you cannot show with straight A's in school that you're quote unquote smart because you've done what you're told, you're not rewarded the same way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that I always talk about that we care so much about external metrics because we were taught to care about them. So it's not our fault that we're like obsessed over them. It's not our fault, but we now have like a responsibility to be aware of them and say, oh, I get it. My issue isn't so much that I will make a mistake. My issue is that people will see me making a mistake and I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say having kids is maybe, I haven't thought about this until now, at least for now. It's the first time it's like built a muscle around. I actually don't care since having kids. I care less about what other people think. Certainly not. I think my professional identity is an exception, and that's sort of why I'm forcing myself to do this. But I do find that as a parent, you give less fucks about.
You do. But Sarah, it's also as you get older. I do.
Yeah, true.
It's like as you live a little bit more and you go through things, and I think you can do that. I think you can accelerate that at a younger age.
Yeah.
But I do think it's part of like, you've been through so much. You're like, this is my life. And people in their 50s tell me, wait a minute, it gets even better. You really don't care. And then people in their 60s tell me, girl, you just don't give an F.
Yes.
Like, you just don't care. I think because you've lived so much and you've seen so much and you realize no one's really looking at you and caring about you.
No one cares.
They're thinking about their own.
Yeah.
They have their own stuff going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally.
Nobody is going home thinking about what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it that way.
Yeah.
Like, you think you are, but you think it's true, but it's not. And that's like the one thing I wish people always ask me, like, oh, what's the one thing you wish you would have told yourself or known or understood when you were a little younger, like in your 20s? And I said, maybe the number one thing, aside from self-worth and stuff, is probably that no one is thinking about you. And I meant that in two ways. One, no one is thinking about you in the way of if you want to be recognized and you want a promotion and you want to be visible in that way, you need to make yourself visible to people that matter or that are influential in your industry or company, right? But the other one was really about no one's thinking about you. Like you make a mistake, no one is thinking about that 3 weeks later like you are, because they've made their own mistakes, or they're doing their own life and they're doing their own work, and you're not the center of their attention as you think you might be. So understand that so you can recover quickly and move on, but also understand that if you want something, no one's thinking about you. You have to actually go work to get it.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
It's important to think about that both ways.
Yeah.
That is like a big lesson that I've learned and experienced of like, who do you think you are? That someone like in a work setting, like when I've left a job and I feel so guilty, I'm like, what are they going to do? And then it's like, well, who do I think I am that they need me?
But Ree, that's so important because I'm going to say this, it may sound controversial, but at companies, you are 1000% replaceable.
Always.
You leave and like a month later, people's like, oh yeah, they were here and not there anymore. And life moves on. So sometimes we feel so guilty about things. And I'm just like, life is going to move on. And your colleagues who are your friends and you work there, very few will stay your true friends after you're gone.
In that spirit of sort of like advice to your younger self, to the extent that you would be comfortable, I am curious. I know in my working setting and then now outside, a lot of people, a lot of mothers are, especially mothers who had a child, whether their first or their last or in between in the pandemic, are experiencing something beyond burnout. And obviously for you, that came to a head in ultimately taking leave. I extended my maternity leave in the form of a medical leave for from similar-ish reasons of there's just so much to be carried and just not feeling stable enough to kind of come back yet. I'm wondering what you could kind of advice to yourself in anticipation of that leave, or even coming out of that. Maybe even saying like, I'm glad you took the leave. Like, but I'm curious what kind of, I don't know, wisdom or lived experience you could share around that. I think it'd be really helpful.
So I want to preface what I'm about to say with the truth that when I was suffering from, I was clearly in burnout and I was clearly depressed. And, you do that like assessment and your therapist continues to tell you, you might want to consider taking a leave. Right. And I'm like, no, like I can do this. Like I have been through some shit. Like I have gone through a lot of things. I can push through, like I'll just rearrange some things. But it wasn't gonna work because I was so in the deep dark hole. Like I then at that time, I didn't really have the ability to do that. And so I took the leave and it felt like a failure. Like I felt like taking the leave itself was a failure. And not ironically, a lot of the women I coach are like on that verge of burnout. Or they're kind of like in the middle of it. And the one thing I say is like, you got to get a therapist, like number one. But the second thing is like, now it's like doubling down on caring for yourself. And what are you going to do? Are you going to take a vacation for 2 or 3 weeks? You're going to take a leave. Like I really push a break because I don't think when you're in that space, I don't think you can just get yourself out like you used to because you're in a totally different place. Your body is done and you do not want to get to a place where your body forces you to be out. Like you don't want that. That's what happened to me essentially. Like my body, I had panic attacks. I got skin rashes. It was something I'd never experienced before. And my body was literally telling me, you don't want to shut it down. I'm going to shut it down for you. So you get the message. And so I think we don't want to get to that place of being forced where now you have to kind of scramble to get stuff together and to make sure people are taken care of so you can take care of yourself. Because let me tell you, when you're in full burnout and you're forced to take it because your body's done, you cannot take care of anybody else. You're actually not able to. Like you're like a shell of yourself. And so I always say that taking care of yourself and watching for the signals and addressing them right there is the most selfless thing you can do for yourself, for your kids, for your work, for your team. Because when you're taking care of yourself, you're just better for everybody else. And if you don't catch that at the right time, your team then has to scramble. Your family has to scramble. You need to call in everybody to help because you can't be there the way that you wanted to be there and the way that you thought you needed to be there all. Because motherhood to me, women, we have all these mental tabs going all the time. And there's so much we carry that's silent and that's invisible. and we've heard of this, like the invisible load. It's just that our brains are a little different and they just run all these things that we have to do and that we haven't done yet. And then we add our jobs to that and it can be really exhausting. And so we have to pay attention to when we're feeling exhausted or I always say this, that if you feel like you get sleep for a week, but you're still exhausted and you take a vacation for a week and your body is still so tired and you can't like recover, like you don't have the energy to recover. To me, that's like the biggest sign that actually something else is going on and you have to get some support.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to do the basics, sleep, move your body, eat okay. Like if you're not doing those things and your body can't do those things, I would say sleep insomnia is like the number one signal, right? You can't go to sleep, your mind's racing, or you can't stay asleep, right? So, and I do think that we tend to do what I did, which is like, no, I'm fine. Like I've gone in my 20s. Oh my God, I had so many 4 a.m. nights where I was working and no, it was no big deal. Yeah. I didn't have 3 kids then.
Yeah.
I didn't have the weight of the responsibilities I did.
Yeah.
And like I do now, like then, right? I didn't, it's different. And we don't sometimes recognize our season has changed, right? The
Yeah,
season
totally.
has changed.
We're forever young. Yes.
We're not, you know,
Yeah.
like we can be forever young inside, but our bodies can't do the same thing. And our brains are working on overdrive when you have more responsibilities. And by the way, more high stakes responsibilities.
Yeah.
And
like,
even if you can, you don't have to. Like,
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a survival mechanism.
Correct.
But
And on that point, are there lessons around help that you're asking for help or taking help that you have learned? A lot of our audience is like, there's resentment and also pride in doing it yourself. But also there's just sort of, we haven't learned how to ask for or accept help. I don't know if maybe you have.
No. I think that's been a journey for me. And I'll be honest, it still is. I still hesitate and resist it.
Yeah.
And then I have to do my own work, right? I have to do my own work to say, no, this is what you need right now. And you can't do this alone. And even things like, I mean, something as simple as the book. I knew that if I was going to complete it, I needed to have a person to keep me accountable. So I got a book coach. For my business, I've had business coaches. I right now have a strategy consultant I work with to get me crystal clear on my strategy for the next 2 years. You're always hesitant because you're like, no, I can figure this out. But here's the thing. There is always someone who's just a little bit ahead of you, who has a little bit more experience that can be so transformational for you. And I've done that. I've resisted it. And then I'm like, no, I actually need to do this. And what will the value and impact be for me in the long term? I'm going to get where I want to go faster. Like it's going to be better.
Yeah.
So I always think about that. Like what is on the other side? Like if I don't get the support, what's the best case scenario and the worst case scenario? And then if I do get the support, the same thing, right? There's no worst case scenario there though, when you get support.
Oh, I like that. Thinking about moving beyond, there's getting the help, but then envisioning what's on the other side of the help.
Yeah. Yes.
A better version of you, maybe a more successful, whatever it is.
And sometimes you're not getting support because you're such in a rush every day. Like you're not thinking about, okay, how can I do that? That's the other thing too, is you're like, I think I need support. I don't know where to start. Who do I go to? What do I do?
Right.
There is the stuckness of what do I do first? There's also, and I only know this because this is what clients tell me, that many, many women have come to me and said, I'm so embarrassed that I can't figure this out on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't want to reach out because I didn't want to admit that like, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what I can do to change the way I'm working and living because I've historically, I do stuff like I'm a doer, like I'm an executor. I can do this, but in this part of my life, I actually don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. And the one line I always hear is, I know I have to change something, but I don't know how to start making the change. So I don't change, but I want to. I just don't know where to, like, it's like this circle.
That's circle, like, totally the spiral. Yes.
I love that. I don't know. We talk a lot about having a village and a community. with raising our kids and helping us raise our kids, but it's also important for us to have them for ourselves, that like
Yes.
life is a collaboration and
Yes.
you're not meant to figure it out by yourself, in the same way that like a therapist helps shine a light on something that like you've been doing forever, but then they're like, hey, does this not feel good?
Yes.
And you're like, oh, right. Like we need our villages too for ourselves. I think that's so
Yes.
important. I love that. Like,
Yeah.
but there is so much shame and pride of like, well, I just have to do it because I can, and it's fine.
Yes.
I'll just do it.
But you
Yeah.
know what? But sometimes you actually can't, but you think you should be able to.
Right. Right.
Because you say no. And I see this a lot too. What clients tell me is that they look at other women at their jobs and they say, if she can do this with 4 kids,
Right.
why can't I do this with no children? And I'm
Right.
like, you have no idea what her life
Stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
is.
Thank you for saying that. I agree.
You're just relying on an image that you have, your perception of her life. And I'm
Mhm.
telling you, her life, you think has it all together. She's going through it because I know, because I coach them. Like she's going through it too.
Yeah.
It's just that when you're at work, you're presenting something. You're
Yeah.
always in presentation mode, even if you're not presenting something, right?
Yeah.
You are presenting yourself in a certain way. Of course, you're going to seem like, I got this.
Yeah.
And you're not going to talk about all the things you're struggling with because, again, you're thinking, who has time for that? I have
Right.
to do work when I'm here.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can't rely on our perception of others and how you think they don't struggle to then influence, oh, well, I should just get it together or have it together already. Like,
Yeah.
no, everyone needs support in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. And then we have these like short answer, rapid fire things, but, existential question that I know you've written about and spoken about and think about, having it all. And is that something that looms over your head? What have you learned from your clients about having it all? I know you talk a lot more about sort of fulfillment and
Yes.
alignment rather than having it all, but I'm curious, go ahead and tell us how to have it all and why we shouldn't care about it.
So I love this because I think even the framing of like having it all is like it's problematic, right?
Yeah.
Because it presumes that that we know what all means, and I don't think people have defined that for themselves. I think that's the problem. That the general problem is we say, I want to be happy. I want to be satisfied. I want to feel, I hear this so many times, I want to feel more at peace with myself. But we haven't defined what that looks like. And when I say we haven't defined what that looks like, I mean, you, Sarah, have to define it for yourself. You define it for yourself. Me, Arivee, define it for myself, because it's not going to look the way that your definitions are going to look. And I think that's the issue, is that we don't take the time to consider, what would satisfaction look like to me? Like literally painting the picture of it or the movie of it, of like, what does that look like? And what is like work satisfaction look like? To me, at that time when I left that job, I was okay with not being promoted. I was like, I don't want to get a promotion, because I understood that it would be more responsibility and frankly more hours. And I was like, I'm not interested in that at this point in my life, right? So I know that work satisfaction is like working with good people, doing really excellent work, making an impact, and staying exactly the level that I was at. I don't even need a raise, just like keep me right here. That's satisfaction to me. To someone else, it is not. It is like, I need to work with good people, but I need to advance every 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? I want to be C-suite. That is, to me, work satisfaction. Okay. And then we think about work-life harmony, and then we get into a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I do think that having it all question, what's underneath that is this misconception that we know what all means. And so I always say, you have to define what your all is, because to me, all for me is like truth, aliveness, fulfillment, alignment. That's all to me.
I love those.
It may not, like, I care very much less about material things, right? To me, it's like, how am I living my life every day? Do I feel like I have energy? Do I feel like I'm showing up? You know, some days I don't have great days where I feel like I don't want to do life today. Like I just get like big time. It's adulting is hard sometimes. It's hard. But on balance, like if I look at it long term, you know, am I living a life true to me, so that if I were to go tomorrow, I can say, I was doing that and I don't regret how I did it.
Yeah. Love that.
I think
Thank
that's,
you.
yeah, that's so beautiful. And also being so real and honest with ourselves about what is it actually to me and not what I think it is, or based on
taught to want.
Yeah.
exactly. Really breaking that down and being honest with oneself is hard.
No,
Important. That's why
V,
it's
that's the
important to feel
hardest part.
surrounded
Without
with
judgment.
people.
No,
Honestly, yeah.
V, that's I have found that is the hardest part for clients, is to be honest that what they've been doing is not what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Or they did want it at some point, but something changed. Oh my God.
I know.
The hair.
We have a Velcro baby. He's
Oh
the
my God, and I
cutest.
saw the little hand in the foot. Oh.
V's doing a million things at once. It's incredible.
Yeah, this is what we do.
I know. And we pretend it's easy and fine.
I know, me
Yes.
too.
Okay, 2 quick questions and then let's run away. But if you and then you and we should get drinks. Okay, one is, if you go back and visit your new mom self,
Oh my
is there
God.
anything you might want to say to her?
Stop breastfeeding.
V's listening.
No, I only say this because, like, stop breastfeeding, but stop putting so much pressure on yourself.
Yes.
To breastfeed.
Yeah.
Because I had a really rough time the first time, and I just felt awful about that. And I know, like, the best is for the baby to be fed. It doesn't matter if it's formula or breast milk, but I felt so much guilt and shame because I was having such difficulty, and my son wasn't growing at the rate they wanted him to. So we had a supplement with formula, and I felt bad about that. That's like the number one thing, is I would say, and I know it's easier said than done because I experienced that, but really, I'm gonna tell you, when your baby is formula fed, you can go to the mall at week 3. And you can go for a walk, and your baby's not relying on your breast to eat. So someone else can feed them. By the way, someone else can get up in the middle of the night and feed your baby.
I know.
So, like, I think of those things. And I also, for new moms, understanding this is a different season and things are going to shift. And there are going to be times where you're going to say to yourself, shoot, I just wish I could just go and, like, get a drink, like, just go. And when you are a very new mother, you're in a transition period, which I love how Esther Perel defines transition. She says, you're neither here nor there yet. That is the definition of transition. And by definition, you are unbalanced because you're not settled yet. You're not there. You're not here. And learning to be okay in that transition of seasons is really important. And what being okay means, giving yourself some compassion and saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning as I'm going. I'm figuring this out. If I need help, I'm going to get it. But, like, I'm just going to take this one day at a time. Like, I think we have these, like, huge goals and dreams sometimes when we're in transitions. And I think sometimes it's literally just, I'm going to take it one day at a time. I'm going to do what I can today. And recognizing that there is a shift happening within you and that you're not crazy.
Yeah.
It's not only happening to you. The only difference is, are you going to be honest with yourself about what it means to you and the impact motherhood is having on you? Right? Are you going to be honest with yourself, or are you going to suppress it, push it down? Because I'm telling you, if you suppress it and push those things down, they were going to pop right back up in a few years or 5 or 10 years. And then you're going to call me and be like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm happy to help, but
yes. Well, I think everyone should call you.
You can really get, when you are really honest with yourself, like, I cannot stress this enough. When you are truly honest with yourself and you start living in alignment with that honesty, things are easier. I'm not saying they're easy, but they're easier because you don't have this internal tug of war within you.
Yeah. That's really helpful to share. Thank you. Our last question is, your kids may be listening, or one day they will. Is there anything that you'd like to say to them?
I want you 3 to know that you are always loved. You will always be seen. You are always appreciated. And that I will love you no matter what. It doesn't matter what you do. My love has no conditions. And all that I hope for you is that you live a life true to you.
Yes. That's what everyone would want to hear. Thank you. Can you say that to me and my children? Thank you so much. This was such a treat. I'm so glad. Newtonville Books, wherever, if you're listening. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here in the middle of so many things on the hottest day so far
Yes.
in
Right?
Massachusetts. But yeah, thank you. Everyone should go by Your Time to Rise. Everyone should call Arivee for any sort of help,
advice, therapy,
not about fixing,
guidance.
but about becoming your ultimate
Yes,
self.
becoming. It's about becoming. Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Arivee, yes, amazing. I also, this is one of those signs when I walked into this bookstore and heard her talking and then heard her refer to her kid. And I was like, is this a sign from the universe? And of course, as she said too, transitioning from corporate, doing anything entrepreneurial, regardless of what you're doing before, is full of doubt and uncertainty. And it's one, like, if I was going to become religious, it might be now, where you're just like, I don't know, someone give me a sign. And I felt like that was like one of those moments where I'm like, wait, is this happening because I need to be here? And I think I was actually only there because I had brought my oldest he was doing some soccer tryout and had 30 minutes to kill, and the bookstore was the closest thing. And so I was there. Anyway, it was all these things coalescing, and it's like, I don't know, it was beautiful. And she's phenomenal.
Yes.
I am going to hang out with her.
I know, you're very similar.
Right?
In storylines, like life, timing, everything, choices, mindset. It's really interesting.
Yes. And she's not phenomenal just because she's like me. But
I love her.
She's
I
the best.
Like her.
No, I just really, well, first, actually, to what she said, it's like in the context of seeking help, just the idea that sure, we could all do it ourselves, but wouldn't it be nice to talk to someone who's a few steps further down the journey from you and to give you that wisdom and context and advice? And for me to be able to connect with her on this, I feel like she's further down the road of what we're trying to build. And like, we could learn from her successes, mistakes, decisions,
seeing
whatever.
Her do it make you feel like you can?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think she has an incredible portfolio of things she does. I also wanted to even ask her how she was doing these things. Well, we didn't have enough time. I wanted to ask her the questions of like, how the hell did you find 125 hours in a like 24-hour day to be working full time, have 3 kids, 2 to 3 kids at that point, having the podcast, writing the book, like doing all this stuff on the side. But she now does all of that. And speaking and obviously executive coaching and all of these things that are kind of, I've been curious about, but would love to learn more. And I do appreciate, one of our other guests was talking about the idea of, it's not so much like work-life balance, it's more alignment, but different ways to talk about being at peace, feeling centered. And I feel like Arivee talked about this idea of like, it's not work-life balance, it's not achieve, it's kind of fulfillment, but it's really like alignment. And I've often felt my best when I'm like, if my head, my heart, and my body are like moving in the same direction, then I feel less stressed. It's when you're like, I think this is when, the cognitive load, mental load that like classically mothers will carry of, it's hard to be in alignment going in one direction when there's also like, someone just crapped their pants and someone else like spilled orange juice, and like, that's not the direction of, I'm not in alignment with those things.
So I don't feel balanced. This is
And I want to hear more of like how it's, I don't know, I feel like over drinks, I want to get more of like, how's it going? When has it been hard? What's working? What's not? But I was really glad that she also shared I don't know, I think a lot of our listeners, not all of them, but are sort of in this like achiever, succeed, perfectionist category, and are kind of grappling with that. I think they're maybe at a point where they're becoming aware that is programmed within them, and also trying to figure out like, and now what? And I think she is such a perfect example of type A achiever, has the resume and could be partner, all these things, and has decided that she wants to look at life differently and try to build it differently, and how hard that is, and how I mean, it's not a good thing, but just that it's interesting how your body ultimately does know, even if you mentally are trying to overpower some of these deep needs, your body will talk to you in the form of like mental, physical health issues that will that are worth obviously listening to and addressing. And I'm so proud of her for doing it and just being out there and doing it. So yeah, she's inspiring, great energy to be around.
Truly.
So okay, everyone should call Arivee and read her book and get her coaching and have her come talk to your organization. Maybe I'll have her come do a talk for the mothers.
There we go.
Yes. Ooh, I like this. I love this. Okay. It's so hot. We have to move on to our joy right now. Maybe my joy is putting ice
Air
cubes on my head.
conditioner.
Yes. Oh my God. Joy is air conditioning right now.
Truly, that is just my joy right now.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
I was able to not turn it off right now because what is going on?
It's so hot,
And
which I always
also-
love. Of course, in Boston, we were like, it's so cold. Like,
I
when is
know.
the spring going to
I
end?
know.
And then now it's like, it's so fucking hot.
But there's a
It's so
difference.
humid. Yeah.
This heat is not in alignment with what I was talking about when I said I wanted it to be warm.
I know. True.
I didn't mean 96. I meant like 80s or like high 70s.
80s, high 70s. Yeah. High 80s.
72.
Any form of 72.
Sunny.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know. Not this.
Joy is sitting in an air conditioned room.
Yeah.
Not moving quickly.
And joy is knowing that it's gonna break like tomorrow or the next day.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Love you.
Well, thanks for being there.
Stay cool.
We did a great job. Stay
classy.
cool. Stay cool. I was going to say stay unambitious, but that's not what I wanted to
Don't
say.
do that. No, stay ambitious, but also stay real and honest with yourself.
Yeah, because you're plenty ambitious, internally motivated.
Yeah,
You're not like trying to get a grade.
I care what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Not in I don't care about other people. I care so much and I'm celebrating everybody's thing. But like,
yeah.
we're all doing our own thing.
Yes.
Together.
Yes.
So like, whatever. It's none of my business.
Exactly. I know.
Yeah.
You're enlightened.
I don't know. I'm very at peace with whatever it is that I am.
Yes.
So here we are.
I love who you are. I love who you are. You should be at peace.
Thanks.
All right. Go stay cool. I love you so much.
Love
Okay,
you.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and we can reach even more rock stars like you. The Mothers is a production of Backline Media, shining a light on those who carry the team.